you. Maybe before we can continue with this conversation, do you mind introducing yourselves? Because maybe after we've done, you will just switch off your cameras and we disappear into oblivion. Why don't we simply introduce ourselves? Because I don't think we're going to change the world just in this 1 minute, but at least we can make some connections right here and make a better world beginning with ourselves. So I am Joseph Isanga. I am a professor of law. I teach with the College of Law right here, based in Boise, but I'm really part of the whole University of Idaho, and just completed my first year here. But I've been teaching for a couple of years. I teach currently. I'm teaching torts. I teach sales. I teach professional responsibility, public international law. But historically, I have also taught property security, also called secured transactions. I have taught contracts. I have taught business associations or BISOG, agency in partnership, and so as well as other things, bankruptcy and so on. And I've also coached for those who are training for who are preparing for the bar exam. So a variety of things that I do in and outside of classroom. I am also, of course, the advisor for the Black Law Students Association. I have met some of you when I visited Moscow. It was a great time, and I look forward to doing that in the future. So could you please introduce yourselves? I originally come from Uganda, by the way. I went to the University of Notre Dame, where I got my Master of Laws, summa cum laude, a juridical sciences doctorate from the University of Notre Dame, also summa cum laude. And yeah, and so I think that should be sufficient for now. Can you kindly introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm Rainice. You guys know me already, but I also, I attend U of I Law, and I went to Eastern for undergrad, and I want to become a civil rights attorney. So I like having these type of discussions because it tells me like what type of issues I need to tackle later on when I start practicing. Um, Z, do you want to go next, and then we can have Tierno go?
Sure. My name is Zaira. Right now, I just attend Eastern Washington University as a full-time student, studying pre-law and hopefully becoming a lawyer soon.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Good luck, you got it. Greetings, everyone. My name is Cherno Berry. I'm officially a 3L now, so that's popping. We got that going on. So yeah, I'm coming from North Carolina. I went to UNC Charlotte. I'm a political science major. I want to practice contract law, so mergers and acquisition, anything contract related. Yeah, I'm the president of the Black Student Law Association, and I'm also the founder and the president of the True Trial Lawyers.
Nice to meet you. I met you already, though. So great.
Keon, could we have you go next? Maybe not. My brother, that's my brother. He's a little shy, so he might maybe drop something in the chat to introduce himself. But
I'll talk. Sorry, I didn't hear you right.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm my niece's brother, and yeah, that's much. That's as much as I have to say.
He's a youth who just graduated, and he is a CAD tech, I believe it's called. So yeah, we have some tech people here too.
Thank you.
And then Sanai, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sanai. I go to Eastern. I am a political science student, hopefully going to law school soon. And just like Rainice, I hope to be a civil rights attorney.
Nice to meet you, Sanai.
Julie or Casey, would you like to go next?
I can go. I'm Casey. I am currently applying to nursing school at Everett Community College. I also coach volleyball. I'm one of Rainice's really good friends, so really just show up to get educated and support my friend.
Thank you.
And I'm Julie. I'm also one of Rainice's friends and here for the same reasons, just want to listen and educate myself more on topics that I'm not so educated on. But yeah, no like college or anything. I'm just working and listening. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you guys so much. And then Katrina, would you like to go?
Yeah, hi, my name is Katrina. I use she, her pronouns. I go to Western Washington right now, and I'm majoring in applied mathematics and minoring in physics. And I'm here because I really appreciate the opportunity to learn stuff outside of my major. And I love supporting things. So thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.
And then the last person is my mother. I don't know if she's busy right now. But Mom, if you're not, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, my name's Tiffany. I am proud mother of Raynice and Keon also on this call, and I am always going to just support everything that they're doing. So that's
Yeah.
that's why I'm here.
Nice to meet you, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's everybody, Dr. Isanga.
I have learned quite a lot, including that your mother is on this channel currently. Tiffany, are you located in the US or some other place?
No, we're in the US.
Fantastic. But you probably understand what's going on in Haiti even far more than I do. I lived in Florida, and probably that was my closest I could have gotten to those islands. I don't think I could throw a stone from Miami to Haiti. I hardly could do that. But look, I came into contact with several people who were from Haiti and were living in southern Florida. And yeah, already with that particular living very close to some of them, I got a sense of some of the struggles that the people on that island have gone through. So please educate some of you who are more familiar with what is going on in Haiti. Educate some of us as we go along and say, hey, that's a misconception. Hey, that's not right. Maybe this is, and so on. And fill in, make comments, make remarks. So the world is having so many conflicts. It's a conflagration currently. The entire planet, if you looked at it from above, you could see smoke in many places. You could see smoke in Ukraine. You could see smoke in not just smoke. It's people dying and people living in poverty and people basically on the run for their lives. Ukraine, Gaza, and now we're talking about Haiti. Haiti has had conflicts for a long time, and currently it's mostly armed militia turning on their very own, even though they are saying they are trying to force out those who have clung to power, but at the same time they turn up against their own people. And so this conversation, I would like us to think of creative things we could possibly, advance in terms of political stability, in terms of security, in terms of poverty that has hit this island. Those are three things that I think we could focus on: political stability, insecurity, as well as poverty. Of course, along with those, there are other things which you could think about, some factors in the background, such as corruption, the rule of law, the role of the US, the United Nations Security Council, or the United Nations Organization, even regionally, the Caribbean, as well as South America, what they could do, as well as globally, any interested powers such as the United States and other developed countries, what they could do to bring an end to what has been a vicious cycle of insecurity, an intractable cycle of poverty, political instability, corruption, and basically lack of development for a very long time, or going all the way back to the 1400s. So the independence, it was the first independent country after they rose up against the colonizers. They have been independent for 220 years, and yet so many countries which got independent well after them have gotten ahead. What is the reason for this? Some of you are more familiar with the background of Haiti. What's the reason that Haiti has been riddled with political instability, insecurity, and poverty? I don't want us to bore you, just a monologue. Can some of you pitch in? What have you heard along those themes? What have you heard? What has come across your radar?
Tierno, would you like to share?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from what I've known is that Haiti was basically a French colony back in the days.
Yes.
And actually, they were the first to, they actually initiated the French Revolution because the revolution that happened in Haiti, I think it's called Saint-Domingue, right? And
Well,
actually the one who influenced the French Revolution themselves. And that's what people don't even talk about. And the the revolution in Haiti inspired all African countries because almost all of Africa, aside from Ethiopia, was in a sense um, invaded by 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 outsiders, by other world powers. So basically, people are not giving Haiti their flowers as well because they are the one who basically influenced the rest of the world, Africa, to seek independence. That's something people
and
don't really realize.
and you can see that even Louisiana would not perhaps be part of the United States today if, in fact, the French hadn't given up, Haiti after they rose up against them. They sold Louisiana to the U.S. Because they're like, yeah, let's give that up.
Yeah,
So anyway, what have other people learned in passing about Haiti? That particular island is right after Cuba, and you can see on the map there is the Caribbean Sea, and then you have Cuba, and then you have got there you have got the Dominican Republic, you have got the Bahamas, all around there, Cuba as well. I mean, Haiti is right in there. And so, what have some of you heard about Cuba? About Haiti.
Anyone else want to share before? I have a few things that I've learned so far, but I want to hear other people's thoughts first. Anybody? I know, like I said, it's not really in the media a lot, so people might not know like a lot about what's going on. But the main thing that I've known that I think contributes to the destabilization is how the US siphoned away 40% of Haiti's national income to repay debts for the US and France. So obviously, I think that has a part in like destabilizing. And then the only other thing I know is that in 2020, Haiti tried to ask for reparations from France from everything that happened, and then France just basically ignored their requests. So yeah, I do know the U.S. has played a role in the destabilizing of Haiti. And then I also know about the revolution where the slaves in Haiti revolted against their colonizers. And I agree with Tierno, like it inspired a lot of other places to become independent and also disown slavery. So that's kind of my basis on it.
Yeah, and so commenting about what you just said, I think that's one of the contributing factors for the poverty that prevails in Haiti, because what happens is, although the French gave independence to Haiti, it was not for free. They also said you owe us debts close to current amount. In current amount, that would be probably 20 billion, and with a country with a very low GDP, they had to service that debt for a very long time. Instead of focusing on their own development, they were servicing these debts. For a very long time, almost 120 years, they're trying to pay that debt. You can see of 220 years, half of that was spent trying to pay off a debt through former colonizers. Unbelievable. So, what else have some of you had? Have you had in the current, passing along, perhaps you read newspapers on television, have you heard about the current crisis going on in Haiti? Because we may not have a lot of time. Have some of you heard what's going on currently in Haiti with basically having no functional state institutions? What has brought that about? Currently, Haiti is paralyzed. Almost no functioning police, no functioning government. The institutions have collapsed. What has led to that?
I don't know what directly led to that, but I know that it's a collection of stuff that basically led to the anarchy that we're witnessing today. I know that they assassinated the previous president,
Yes, that
Moses.
was in 2021. He was
Yeah.
assassinated.
So
And what could have led to that assassination? I mean, what was going on?
I have no
So
idea.
prior to that assassination, there had been some sort of constitutional development, a new constitution, trying to get rid of the dictators who had been there after independence. There were a series of dictators. We won't go into that history. And then they developed some sort of political development where they had some sort of political dispensation where there was some sort of resemblance of democracy. They came up with a new constitution, but hardly respected. It was merely a paper tiger. So they came up with these democratic institutions, a parliament, as well as an executive, which would, of course, hold elections regularly, and they never did. And because of that, at some point, they just kept promising we shall hold elections, and never held them. And one of the reasons perhaps was, the people who were in government wanted to retain the privileges. There was some sort of division in Haitian society where some people held on to power historically. They wanted to keep that. And when there was some sort of revolution and this so-called constitution was put in place, they promised elections, but they never held. So eventually we have, sort of division within Haitian society between the elites and then those who are popularly elected but clinging to power. And that's what eventually leads to what are called gangs. They are co-opted by some parties and given guns, and some of them are involved in contraband, that is illegal products such as cocaine and so on. So they are not just co-opted politically, but also they're involved in legal trade. Basically, Haiti has become, in some respects, a conduit for some of these contraband products from Latin America, some of them coming to the United States. Meanwhile, guns are being channeled from southern Florida and other parts of the US into Haiti. And so when you see the United Nations Security Council coming up with resolutions targeting some of those people dealing in guns and killing people, committing violence, it's basically that there are people who have overturned democracy, overthrew institutions, they have overrun prisons, they are running illegal drugs and killing people on site, raping, and the government is simply not functional since that assassination which you mentioned, and so it is chaotic. I mean, you just Google, just turn to Google and say, show me barbecue. He was there holding guns, saying, I'm fighting for the people, but his own gangs are turning against the same people. So I don't know what else you guys have heard about Haiti. I'm just interested in what you think the US should do and what the international community should do in a situation where there is utter confusion, there is persistent poverty, political instability, elections have not been held, the courts are not functional. What would you do as younger people to bring about a better world, including Haiti? Don't blame the older guys. It's your world. It's your world.
Z, did you have any thoughts on a solution? I am at a loss. I don't know. I know the US is one of the biggest humanitarian aid donators to Haiti right now, but obviously it's still been destable, and just ever since I went in 2018, it's like gone downhill. So I don't know if humanitarian aid is like, it's helping, keep people alive, but I don't know what solution would like stabilize Haiti. And then also, I feel like they've been wronged in a lot of ways by like a lot of the world's superpowers. So yeah, I'm honestly at a loss. Z, do you have any ideas?
I really don't either. I just can't. I don't know. I'm kind of learning right now about UNRWA for Palestine aid, and it's kind of hard for me to like kind of wrap around what's going on with like UNRWA right now too. And so it's kind of hard for me to say like a solution on what we can do, because like all the other solutions that we tried to do obviously didn't work per se. And so I'm lost. So I can't.
Yeah, if you had the opportunity to write to your representative, what would you say?
Anybody want to jump in? Tierno, any more thoughts?
I think the US should just stay out of people's business, to be honest, especially considering that the US is certainly, along with France, they are responsible with the position Haiti is in right now. Again, I'm not an expert on this subject, so I don't have all of the evidence, so I'm going to refrain myself from saying that much. But I know for a fact anybody can just look it up, We know
Yeah,
who's
so
responsible for what's going on.
yeah, so currently the US is offering 300,000 US dollars basically to help an international police force. It is basically a security mission of the United Nations. So it's being led by Kenya. They are sending in police officers, and the US is also going to send in military to just protect the airport, where these people will land. From Kenya, from Barbados, from Bangladesh, from Chad, they are coming, police officers. They are not yet there. And the gangs, call them local militia, depends on your political persuasion. They are saying they are ready for them. They are ready for the police officers when they land, and they will greet them with bloodshed. So the Kenyan police are coming in. What are they coming to do? Is just to stabilize the situation. The gangs control 80% of Port-au-Prince. So they control 80%. They control the airport. They have attacked prisons, and the people who were in those prisons, perhaps some of them were former gangs, were freed, and they roam the roads, and they control every institution, like 80% of the country. You don't have the ordinary state institutions. So there is what they are calling a transitional presidential council, because the current prime minister is not in the country. He had gone to Kenya to negotiate this police force, which would come in and help the country stabilize the security situation. But he was not allowed to come back in because the gangs control the airport. So there is a transitional, he has given up power because he refused to hold elections. And the gangs basically said, okay, we take over. And so you are in a situation where you have got this transitional presidential council. It is really a regional effort to stabilize the situation. They have come up with 9 people from all sorts of constituencies, maybe from the aristocrats, if you want to call them that, from all sorts of political parties, religion, civil society, to come together to form some kind of presidential council with a view to holding elections and possibly reforming the institutions in Haiti. But first, there has to be some sort of security stabilization in Haiti. And then in the long term, perhaps look to things like the aid you've been talking about, how that will happen when there is so much rampant corruption going on in the country. And the mistakes of the past are not repeated, that the money simply goes to lining, again, the pockets of corrupt officials. We have to see, what would you do, for example, to ensure that these police officers are effective? These who are coming from other countries are effective. Or what would you do to ensure that the transitional presidential council really helps this political transition? Or what would you do to rein in corruption? And what would you do to get the aid of the Haitians? What would you do to bring those who have caused mayhem in Haiti to accountability? Look, if you go about raping people, you kill people, so many people have died. Last year alone, 8,400 people died from this political violence. And just the last 4 months of this year, 2,500 people have died. These people cannot go without accountability. Would you simply let them go? Or would you say there has to be some accountability? But their courts are basically not effective. Would you advocate for an international criminal court? What about the riches these people have lined their pockets with? Should we be able to get it back? Should we have international sanctions? And so on and so forth. Should countries simply come together and simply say, hey, there should be no more selling of guns to Haiti, and those who are responsible will also be held accountable. These are questions I want to hear from you and what your thoughts are. But this is what's going on in Haiti, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this. How do you, so much aid has gone to Haiti over the years. The US has not been sitting on the sidelines forever. It contributed at one point. I think that was in 2004, particularly when the earthquakes, boy, this country has been hit. It's not just by political instability. It has not been hit just by corruption and insecurity. It has also been hit by disasters. It sits at a point where there are so many natural disasters. For example, there was one which simply was 7.2, on the Richter scale, and it killed so many people. And then hurricanes too come in, and the hills have been deforested because poor people must somehow grow their own food in their own gardens, and the soils have been simply, washed off into the oceans. The rocks are bare, and people are fending for themselves. It is, I'm sorry to speak as if this is the most, desperate situation in the world. In many respects, I think it is. What would you say about all of these things that I have tried to highlight?
I know Sinai had something. Sinai, did you want to still bring up that thought? I saw her hand raised earlier.
Yeah.
Yes. It kind of was to your point earlier. My question always like going into like humanitarian like crises is the United States going to do more harm than good? I just feel like they always have a legacy of like, providing aid, like being this middleman between like the colonizer and then the colonist, like, colonized country, and then going to help the colonized country and then doing more harm than good. Do you think that the United States is going, like you said, they're going to be sending in like military, and they went to the UN Security Council to see if they can get aid from them. And I'm just wondering, do you think that they're going to use that for like Haiti's best interest, or do you think like somehow more corruption is going to like erupt?
So my understanding is that the US first went into Haiti basically just before the onset of the First World War, because they were worried about the Germans basically, taking over Haiti. That was before the First World War. And then they stayed for 20 years, contributing to the problems of Haiti, basically. And so there is a feeling in Congress that in the United States, that there is a role here to play. And when crises have occurred, many people have immigrated to the US, some of them from Haiti, to flee the violence or to flee the political insecurity. Sometimes they have been, particularly after the natural disasters, they've been given, certain rights to stay here if temporarily, certain visas. Other administrations have reversed that and then sent people back to Haiti. These people who have been here have been helping with remittances, earning some money, sending to their relatives, which was great. But as administrations change, so do policies towards the Haiti. And that is a problem. There is no consistency. So we have been going back and forth with Haiti. Now we are not even sending in any troops. Basically, the current administration has said we will not send in any troops. Maybe basically saying, as one of you has said, we should stop messing in other people's businesses. But at the same time, we may still need to do something financially. How we do it currently is to perhaps contribute towards the security mission, which is going there to stabilize, and maybe later down the road, give money. Give money to who? Directly to the people, or through NGOs, or through the leadership, which probably has lined their pockets previously and they are corrupt. What would you suggest should be the role of the US? Sending in the military right now, they are trying to send in the military, but not on the ground, no boots on the ground. They will perhaps send in aircraft to cover that area where the planes from Kenya and elsewhere are going to land with the police, and then set up, police stations and so on, and then try to take on the gangs. But the gangs are waiting for them. So we'll see what happens with respect to that. But I think the US has some role. They are our immediate neighbors, and yet we are the most economically powerful country in the world, right next to perhaps the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So this disparity cannot be sustained. And in fact, we are impacted in terms of the UN Security Council, where the US plays a role. The UN Security Council has recognized that the situation in Haiti poses a threat to international peace and security, at least from the regional standpoint. People are immigrating to the Dominican Republic. People are, involved in illegal trade in cocaine and so on. These are things which don't bode well for peace and security, regionally or internationally. So you want to make sure you have got a stable Haiti. And the US cannot sit on its hands. Unfortunately, there has been some inconsistency from one administration to the next. So I don't know what your other thoughts, some of you, are with respect to the US in connection with Haiti.
Z, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to ask, do you think media coverage is something that's a problem as well? Because I see a lot of media coverage for the Palestine and Israel and how like it's impacted America, especially like with us going to university. There's been a lot of protests. I know on my campus, I've seen a lot of pro-Palestine protests. Do you think if there was more media coverage about it, then the US would step in and do something? Or is it come down to like, okay.
I think so. I really think so, because for some reason, and I've been following this from the time Renice did talk to me about this subject. Renice, as you can see, I am trying to do some work, right? So you maybe not a lot, but I tried. As soon as you told me, I tried to look up this, because I don't come from Haiti. So to respect the country and what's going on there, I had to read up a lot on this. And I could follow up on my news feed, what they were saying, but there is way more, in my view, with respect to what's going on in Gaza and Ukraine. I see more of those stories than from Haiti. But whenever some of them cover Haiti, you can see that the situation is tense and is serious. I mean, 8,500 people have died there just more recently. It really should receive more coverage, and I think that the news media have a way of moving Congress into action. So $300,000, which has been dedicated towards helping Haiti, tells the story that they probably are not taking this too seriously, and I think they should do more. This country is collapsing.
I also, as far as like solutions go, I think a big part of like finding a solution is doing research like on the place itself, understanding the culture and the people, because sometimes the US has a tendency to act before they fully understand like how a place is, and I think that's when they can do more harm than good. So at least starting there with actually having someone that understands things in Haiti.
I couldn't agree more, because solutions which come from the top down, they may not be helpful. For instance, if the local community were supporting the gangs or their local militia, depending on your political persuasion, I mean, what could you do? But it turns out that some local people are against what is going on in the streets, because these people are killing them. They're also against people who are not holding elections. At least some portions of Haiti are not happy with that. It depends again which people you're talking about, because if you are the one who's in authority, you might be happy if no elections are held. And so you have to understand whether there can be, ways that the community itself can resolve their own situation. And I think that Haiti solutions are critically important. So a participatory process from the ground up to heal the society. So the international community is coming up with sanctions targeting the gang leaders such as Mr. Barbecue and others, and so on and so forth. But that's only international solutions. What about the local solutions? Once the security has been restored, I think that the next phase is how to heal society and come up with solutions which are from the ground up. And I think that when you look at what's happening in the news, people are really in pain. They can't wait for their situation to get better. For example, there was a canal which was supposed to divert water from one of the rivers to help farmers and so on. And there was no international help with that. The government institutions have collapsed. And you know what has happened? The local people themselves have pulled resources from themselves, brought together cement, blocks, and they are building these canals themselves and to help people get water to irrigate their gardens. So I am sure that such people could be helped by, first of all, coming together and having some sort of conversations. The country is on its knees right now, and I think a conversation between those who are privileged and those who are not. This is our country. A similar thing could have happened in South Africa with apartheid, which was there, but Mandela was not vindictive. Basically managed to avoid the society. There was a ruling group in South Africa as well. But I think what happened in Haiti, again, you can correct me, those of you who know Haiti better. I think the majority, if you think about some majority who got power, they became vindictive and went after those who had been having power, and those fought back with the military, and there were coups and so on and so forth. So I think a national conversation is necessary, a spirit of reconciliation, so that groups don't continue to attack each other. Of course, when the colonialists left, apparently they left power in the hands of a certain group within Haiti, and those maintained it through the military. And then when these others who had been excluded got a chance, they wanted to pay back. That never happened in South Africa, at least on a large scale. There was forgiveness or reconciliation. And I think similar process from the ground up is necessary. People are paying for solutions if they are really, rolling up their sleeves and going into the mud and building canals by themselves to survive. I think this can happen because they all, like all other human beings, love peace, they love development, and they probably can work through those historical problems and begin to heal and develop.
Thank you so much. Did anybody else have any questions for Dr. Isanga, or any solutions or any thoughts at all? Tierno?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I've heard a few proposals as to the betterment of the situation of Haiti, amongst which some people said was like to bring the US to intervene. But personally, I'm just averse to the entire idea of bringing a third party to fix another country's problem. I think as people, we generally have long held this idea of an altruist force, meaning someone that's going to intervene for the betterment of just one people without any interest attached. But I think we're waking up to that, and we're gradually drifting away from that because we realize that most of those help come with like underlying self-interest. You know what I'm saying? And string attached. So that tend to be unilateral. So that's why I don't really like this entire idea of like bringing another, a third party to like fix a country, But you guys tell me what you think. I think it's feasible if people were really good without any interest attached, but unfortunately that's not the reality of the world we live in, So yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts on what Tierno said?
Let's see if we can, Katrina, what do you think?
I don't really have any input myself. I'm just here more so to like take in the information and learn. I didn't come in here with any prior knowledge.
Did anything strike you from our conversation? Something that really you can say, this I take away with this one. This is my takeaway.
I think specifically just the role that the US plays in international affairs overall. It's very different per international affair, but it's interesting how they can be like a really useful leverage and good like financially for other countries, but as far as like morally and what a country actually needs. It's kind of like the US just decides for them what
Yeah.
they need without
Yeah.
the proper contact and representatives, like,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
I think the proper the approach the US is taking right now seems to be a hands-off. Tiano, am I characterizing that the right way? They are approaching it like be careful. Don't try to bring solutions to Haiti, right? We'll help if necessary to put up police stations for the Kenyans and so on, Kenyan police, but we're not going to intervene. No boots on the ground. Uh, so that might be good that you want Haiti to come up with their own solutions, but you just can't at the same time fold your hands and say, okay, Haiti, solve your problems. Can we support them as they are trying to come up with solutions? And I think the US could help in some respects. We have some money. How it is used matters, though. I think so. But I think we should help. Yeah. Tiffany, what do you think? Thank you so much, Catherine. What about Tiffany? I think we almost come close to the top of the hour. But Tiffany, what would you say is something you want to take away from this? And you should know better than me, I think.
No, I actually don't have that much knowledge of everything that has been going on there. I just get bits and pieces from my daughter. I don't really watch the news, so um, I actually understand both sides. I don't know which side should be right or wrong, get involved or not get involved, because I can see both arguments. I wouldn't, that's why I'm not in politics. I wouldn't want to make these decisions.
That's right. I agree. Anything political usually has two sides. It's dangerous to those waters can be very dangerous. What about Keone? I apologize if I mispronounce your name.
No worries. It's Keon, but
Keone, yeah.
no, I definitely see where people are coming from. I think like how the other guy was saying, it would be more like powerful for someone in the community to rise up, especially due to like the bad relations to other um countries in the past. It might not be that effective to um try to have outside forces influence them. But also I know as far as like aiding with money, when my sister went out there, a lot of times the things we thought the money were going to were being used by a lot of the higher ups. So it might, I don't know, the proper way to help in terms to that, because a lot of times I feel like with the corruption in the government, it doesn't really go to what we think it does.
Yeah. And the complication, of course, is just that when you intervene in any country, you are going to come up against the government. They are in control of things. So you can't just bring in the money and deal directly with the people or NGOs. It's complicated. But to the extent that the government would be willing for international actors to help and deal directly with the people, that would be wonderful. And that's the conversation perhaps the international community can have with Haiti. But there has also to be some homegrown solutions. That's what I'm hearing. So now I think we have a few more minutes if you don't mind giving us some of your thoughts. Again, I'm reading your names and I apologize for all of this.
Oh no, you're fine. You said my name right. It's really tough for me because like I do understand that Haiti needs aid. I definitely think that the United States should be like a benefactor in that. I want them to do good. That's my opinion. I want them to go in there and actually, check off the things that need to be done, and not go in there and just keep on corrupting. I see like the same things happening, like kind of like what the United States is doing, like with like Palestine and Israel. I just think that the United States is gonna go in there and just like try to help them, but they're just gonna like take the wrong side. But like overall, I don't know. I don't really have a solution. I just want the United States to be able to go in there and make effective change and not go in there and just keep on corrupting alongside the government.
Yeah, and we have got at least to have some consistency, and as somebody has indicated, not be there for our own interests, and hopefully this won't happen this time. Casey, any thoughts?
I mean, I kind of just agree with like what everyone else said. I kind of just came in here to like get educated, and I didn't even realize that, you know, the US is a cause for a lot of these things. So I think moving forward, kind of getting Haiti's opinion on what they actually need versus what the US just wants to give.
Yeah, and again, although the USA has confirmed some of the things which have happened there, it was for 20 years. There were people there, the French, who did perhaps way more harm than us. But to the extent that we contributed to what's going in there, I think we have a responsibility um, from the perspective of bring about political stability again there, holding of elections according to the constitution, and perhaps even revamping the constitution. The constitution is a kind of a mess. The presidential powers, for example, don't seem to be clearly delineated. The parliament apparently is supposed to be, in charge of making rules, but apparently the president can also make decrees. The president apparently is in charge of putting together a cabinet, but also it seems the prime minister can do so. There is no court which reviews whether or not laws are constitutional. The Supreme Court apparently has that role, but it is the only first and last institution to do so. There's no constitutional court of review as in other countries. And so there are many things which could be done to help Haiti from the standpoint of political stability, to put it right back on its foot, bring about a rule of law, democracy, and stabilize the situation. Have the institutions of a modern government where you've got a military and police which is functioning. There's a cabinet, there are elections which are held. Those things need to be again put back in place, and then help the people get ahead who are now basically on their knees. Julie, do you have anything to say in terms of what you take away? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, from what I've heard and what I know about Haiti, hearing about the unstable government and the leadership, I mean, or I guess you can take a look at the government and then you can see the state of their country and how it's run. And obviously there needs to be a change in government. And I think that the people deserve to have their voices be heard again. Feels like their voices have been taken away by gangs and violence and corruption. So I guess the first step would be give the elections back. You know, you've been saying elections have been meant to happen and they've just been getting pushed off. So what's been happening to that? You know, can we get an election going? Can we bring in new leadership? Like a really good example of like a government that really turned its country around after a change of leadership is El Salvador. They were really, really violent, a very violent country. And then their new president just completely changed everything. He like arrested the gangs, brought back just a normal, stable government. And now it's one of the happiest places to live. So I truly do believe that Haiti can come back to its former glory if the leadership is brought back to where it's supposed to be and the people are given their voices. So I agree. I don't think a third party would do anything. The US and France, or French, they obviously haven't been doing much to help. And if aid is going somewhere to where gangs are in charge of where they're supposed to be giving like things or support, they're obviously going to be giving it back to themselves and not to the people. And yeah, so I think that's the issue.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I think we have one more minute or two. Isaiah, do I mention your name? I think I've destroyed one more name before the end of the hour. Yeah.
You actually said it right. So thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from what I learned is what Bernice is saying is researching, and what Sanai is saying, how we shouldn't have the US just jump in and to corrupt it more. They should do their research first, because it feels like what I'm hearing is they have a list of 10 things and they just pick, oh, I think Haiti should get number 6, instead of doing their research and then actually seeing what they need and seeing how they can get the money to the people or food or resources, and kind of just doing their research, because it doesn't look like US plays their part, and we're supposed to be smart, but it doesn't look like we're that smart as of right now. And so just doing the research and seeing what they need, and then getting it to right channels, kind of what Julie said as well.
Yeah, so you as younger people, of course, this educate yourselves about what's happening in the world. But also remember that although you stay in the US and perhaps some of you work internationally, you can always bring, thoughts to the table. You can, the world is yours right now, not just tomorrow. And the conversations you have with your colleagues, what comes after that. Some of them might have connections with some of the legislators, and maybe their families have connections with legislators. Even if you have only one connection with the legislator in the US, that could make a difference. Or some of you may travel to Haiti and talk to people, and so on and so forth. So I really loved this conversation, and if you don't mind, you could just now and then shoot me an email and say, hey, what about this question? I just heard about this about Haiti. Just continue the conversation. I think Renice had talked about the Congo, and we don't have many minutes to talk about that, but that's another country in Africa which has seen a lot of violence, especially in Eastern Congo. There are minerals there, diamonds, and so in the 1990s, this country had also been, ruled by dictators who never wanted to go, never wanted to let go. So there were rebellions in the Eastern Congo, and overthrew those dictatorships. Eastern Congo was also seeing many people who were running from Rwanda after the genocide in Rwanda, and there were some people from Uganda, where I come from, who were interested in getting the minerals. So they helped those who wanted to throw out the government in Kinshasa, in the capital of Congo, but they were not there again. To your point, Tieno, they were interested people who intervening in Congo, both from Rwanda as well as from Uganda. They were there for themselves to get the minerals in Congo, and those militias in Eastern Congo have continued. Some of them have committed atrocities, rape, killing of people. They have destabilized Eastern Congo. So even though eventually there was a government which took over in Congo, in Kinshasa, some of the militias again revolted against the new establishment in Kinshasa, and they have maintained violence in Congo. And that country, despite its resources, which probably Haiti doesn't have, has not seen much progress, economically speaking, because of that violence. The minerals, the diamonds, taken away by people from elsewhere. They come and get the minerals. Perhaps some of you might be wearing some of those diamonds from the Congo, or some of your relatives might be wearing some of the diamonds from the Congo, and the Congolese people have never seen the money in themselves, and so that's what's going on there. People have died a lot in Eastern Congo, and it continues. So what's going on in Haiti has parallels elsewhere, although there are differences.
Thank you so much, Dr. Isanga. Did anyone have any last minute questions before we wrap up today?
I do have a last minute question. It is a little bit unrelated, but I'll shoot it nonetheless. Professor Izanga, I was just wondering, we got this event we wanted to hold, I believe Friday, September 27th. It's basically an event in which we want to invite the Black Law Student Association and any real student that's really interested in law. And we just want people, the like of yourself, to just come and give the people hope, give them a little bit of a background history of how you got to the point where you are today.
Oh yes, so that would be in September, right?
Yeah, Friday, September 27th, I believe.
Yes, I would love to do that, as long as that day still works for me on the calendar. I've noticed that some of you are interested in going to law school, and you are still on here listening. This year I served on the admissions committee, so let me use this opportunity to tell you that whether you are going to UFI or any other law school, critically important those LSAT scores, as if you don't know about it. You really know, but I just want to tell you from the inside that those LSATs are critically important. So when you do study for those LSATs, give them your most, give them your best efforts. Of course, your holistic story does matter, but it can only go so far. So your history does matter, but you can only go so far, because ultimately they're going to ask, what are his chances of succeeding at law school? So you can't tell them, look, this is what I am and so on, therefore I will succeed at law school. No, your history does matter, but ultimately the question is, can you succeed at law school? So do work on those LSATs. And yeah, because regardless of whatever you are, wherever you've been, eventually your clients will be in your hands. And if you're not being able to succeed, there'll be a problem there. So I emphasize this, and I will be talking about it as well. Despite our backgrounds, and I was raised in very, very poor background, basically on less than $1 a day. And you're like, how are you able to be here? Well, that will be for September. But I can tell you that despite all the odds, many of us can do it, including making it to law school and succeeding there.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much. And I'm also here if anybody has questions about the application process, because I know how that is. And I just hope after this discussion, we can keep all spreading awareness on the Haitian conflict and the conflict in the Congo, since we do know it's not getting as much media coverage. We just keep sharing and educating ourselves and others if we can, and stay in connection and keep these topics relevant for ourselves and for others. So thank you everybody for joining. Next month we'll have another topic. Just send me emails or texts if you have suggestions on what you want that to be. And I'm going to end the recording.